Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. We are doing a Kumena budget deck tech. So calling this one Something's Fishy. Something's Fishy. Again, so to go over him in general, he is 1 and Simic, so green-blue. Tap another... Very much a Merfolk Kindred, and he's all about tapping Merfolk. Alright, so tap 1 Merfolk, you can make him unblockable. Tap 3 Merfolk, draw a card. Tap 5 Merfolk, put a +1/+1 counter on each Merfolk you control. So he can buff up Merfolk, which is a pretty nice thing to do. Also, card draw on your commander is always something I just love to see. Anyway, 50 cents. There's one more important thing I want to go over here. So when you tap the Merfolk to activate his abilities, he's functionally tapping the Merfolk. It's not the Merfolk tapping. Basically, that means summoning sickness doesn't matter. You just need the creature on the board. This comes in very, very important very soon. Oh boy. Okay, anyway. I'm always fine until I start recording, and then I'm like, oh god, my stomach feels like I'm gonna... Anyway, yeah. So, basically, yeah, summoning sick Merfolk, you can still tap with him, right? Because he is doing the tapping, they are not tapping themselves. So the deck price at the moment is $34.82. I've already had to cut the kind of value on this, or not the value, the price on this twice. This has gone up like even 2 days, it'll go up like $5, and I have to cut it back down. It goes back up, cut it back down. So yeah. On TCG Player, this is $34.82. As of last night, I'm hoping it stays that around there for a bit, because that's getting frustrating, frankly. Anyway, the design objective is to take maximum advantage of Merfolk synergy. Merfolk have so much synergy. I just finished up a series on Merfolk, and when I got to the last episode, which was where I covered the kind of Merfolk synergy, or whatever tribe it is, or whatever kindred it is, synergy, that's when I start to really see, like, holy cow, this... Usually there are some good options for every type, creature type. This has just like so many. I usually do 1 honorable mentions. I did 2, and I did 1 specifically for commander, and then the top 5. I had to do, 14 instead of my usual 5. Like, because I just could not, even then I was like, I'm cutting out things like I feel I should keep in. But anyway. Part 1, Kumena, about the commander. Alright, so we already went over him briefly, so let's, Allows you to tap 1 Merfolk to make your commander unblockable. This is great for a win con, right? There's really kind of 2 of our win cons are based on just that, like, you can tap 1 Merfolk and make him unblockable, and yeah. Just commander damage is quite easy when you can't be blocked, right? It's really just about like getting his attack up and stuff like that. And easy card draw on opponent's turns. This is kind of the other major mechanic I would look at with him is like for each 3 Merfolk you have, that's a card, right? When it's just about to be your turn, the last player's end step, you tap your Merfolk and you just draw as many cards as you can, and then you draw a card per turn at the beginning of your turn and untap everything. And you're like so set up for the next turn, it's crazy. I think this might actually be what he's best at, is just setting you up for the next turn. Anyway. Okay, high synergy cards. First of all, we're going to look at Fire Shrieker. This only does one thing, and it's the only thing we need it to do. Equipped creature has double strike. Get double strike, and like commander damage is right. You have to get 21 damage on another player with your commander for commander damage. With this, it's 11, right? If you have 11 attack power, you can do that in 1 hit. This doubling your attack power is just incredible, especially with this commander. And yeah, having it, being able to like equip it for only 2 is also quite good. Deep Root Historian. Okay, so it gives all your Merfolk and Druids retrace. We don't care about Druids though. So yeah, if you discard a land card, we are going to have plenty of card draw. So discarding a land shouldn't make you be... I think you can do that without missing your land drops, so it should be okay. But yeah, you can play Merfolk from your graveyard by just paying their regular cost and discarding a land. And then boom, goes in. That's so good. Oh boy. You kind of, as soon as you get Deep Root out, you kind of just have like whatever Merfolk you want. That they're going to want to remove your Merfolk because there's so many that are like big hassles, and this will just put them, you know, shoot them straight back out on the battlefield. Oh boy. Okay, this is getting to the really high synergy, like crazy high synergy cards. Okay, Deep Root Pilgrimage. Whenever one or more non-token Merfolk you control become tapped, create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token. So remember, it's 1 or more. So if you're tapping 3, it's going to make 1 token. If you're tapping 5, it's going to make 1 token. But yeah, this you can't, remember, you can still tap things that just enter the battlefield. So that is another thing, another creature that you can, that comes in and you can tap right away to activate things. It's not very hard, I think, to set it up so that as soon as that comes in, you can make a copy of it and make a copy of it, and you end up with like tap 3, make 3, tap 3, make 3. That's definitely possible in this deck, at least. So anyway, also the one, it's a 1/1 blue Merfolk with hexproof. That's pretty awesome little side benefit. This one is, I think, especially, I mean, in this deck especially, I have this card and I've never really put it into anything because I never really had a deck where I would think it would really shine. And in this deck, it's like one of the best cards. Oh my god. Anyway, Merkfiend Liege. Other green creatures you control get +2/+2 or +1/+1. I'm getting ahead of myself. Other blue creatures you control get +1/+1. If they're green and blue, they get +2/+2. They do benefit from each of them, right? So like your commander gets +2/+2. If you're going for the commander damage, that's a pretty nice chunk, you know? He starts out with 2 more, and even if you have double strike, that's already 8. 8 out of 21, you still have some ways to go, of course, but it's getting there. It's getting there. The main thing, though, is untap all green and or blue creatures you control during each other player's untap step. So that tap, draw cards thing, you can start doing that just every single turn. Every player's turn, you're like, here, let me tap down my Merfolk and just draw a bunch of cards. You can draw, like, what, I guess, assuming you have even 6 Merfolk, you can draw 6 cards per turn. Or per round, not per turn. Not including your turn, actually. You can draw 6 cards per round when it's not your turn, right? Part 2, the plan. So this is where we look at the deck objectives. Alright, so the first step, I think, in every deck is just ramp, right? Getting your mana base down. And then we're going to talk about Merfolk tactics, which is pretty complicated in this deck, and it's a pretty major part of the deck, of course. And finally, the win cons. So ramp. Hawkball is Surging Soul. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, each Merfolk you control explores. Okay, what Explorer does is you look at the top card of your deck. If it's a land card, you just put it into your hand. So first of all, you're guaranteeing your land drops, which I think people underestimate, but anyway, that's a whole different rant that I think I've gone over too many times. And second, if it's not a land, you can either put it into your graveyard and put it on top of your library, which is amazing. And you put a +1/+1 on the creature that's exploring. So basically, if all of your Merfolk are going to explore, Look at the top card of your deck. If it's not a land, you can be like, oh, okay, put it back on top of your deck, put a +1/+1 counter on the Merfolk, then pick that card up again, and basically all of your Merfolk, you go +1/+1/+1/+1/+1. This is something your commander can do too for tapping 5 Merfolk. So building up these big Merfolk, super easy with both your commander and this card. So going a +1/+1 strategy is definitely in the cards, so to speak. Ha ha ha. Anyway, analyze the pollen. So you can collect evidence 8, and that's when this becomes a kind of much better card. Search your library for a basic land card. If evidence was collected, instead search your library for a creature or a land. Reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Again, this only gets something to your hand, not onto the battlefield. So it's about making the land drops if you're using it for land. Much better to use it for a creature though, obviously. 1 green tutor is not bad. Harvest season. Okay, this is where we're getting into some big ones. Search your library for X basic land cards, where X is the number of tapped creatures you control. Tapped creatures, oh boy. And put those cards onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So if you have 6 tapped Merfolk, great. Cast this, and you put down 6 tapped basic lands. Which is a whole lot of ramp, especially for 3 mana. Oh boy. Finally, Thieving Skydiver. This is technically not a ramp card, but I think most of the time I'm going to use it as that. So you can, she's 1 in a blue, and you can pay X extra, and yeah, you can, when you pay the X extra, she steals an artifact for the game. It's just yours. Obviously, in Commander, your #1 target is going to be Soul Ring. So for 1 extra, you're going to have 2 extra mana for the rest of the turn. And more importantly, an opponent is not going to have that mana, right? It's preventing them from using the mana, which is even better, but okay. Oh, also, yeah. There's a lot of, like, 2 mana rocks. So even if you can't get a Soul Ring, I think you'll probably end up being able to get something decent. Merfolk. Singer of Swift Rivers. So again, he has Flash. This is really important with him. And when he enters the battlefield, put a shield counter on another target creature you control. Shield counters, I would prefer just making them indestructible. Basically, a shield counter is 1-time indestructibility. And we do have effects that let us like put more counters or double counters even. So we're gonna, yeah, if you proliferate, you put another one. And then if you like, you can double the counters and make it, basically you can go from 1 to 4 pretty easily. You may cast Merfolk spells as though they had Flash. So all your Merfolk you can cast with Flash now. Which is most of your deck, most of the creatures in your deck. Anyway. Seafloor Oracle. Whenever Merfolk you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Yeah, that's good. Forerunner of the Herald. So when it enters the battlefield, search your library for a Merfolk card, reveal it, shuffle your library, and put that card on top. It doesn't get it to hand, it doesn't get it to the battlefield. On top of the library, you've set yourself up, kind of thing. And whenever another Merfolk enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on her, which can be good. We do have effects that like you can make a Merfolk unblockable, so this could actually be very useful. But yeah, not bad. Prime Speaker Zegana. Yeah, I think I actually said it right this time. So when she enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on her, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control, you can stack up power on creatures pretty quickly. She's going to come into the battlefield and instantly become 1 stronger than whatever your strongest creature is. Oh. Yeah, and when she enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to her power. So card draw, she's like a monster of card draw as well. Like she's going to instantly become the strongest creature on your board, and you're going to draw cards equal to like basically her power right away. So whatever if you've got a 6/6, she comes in 7/7, draw 7 cards. Or, sorry, equal to, yeah, equal to its power. Yeah, okay, good. Finally, Civiloon of Sea and Sky. So she is indestructible as long as you control 2 or more Merfolk, and whenever she attacks, draw a card. Again, attacks, not does damage, just attacks, right? You just have to tap her and say, I'm attacking. She's also indestructible, so, you know, I guess they can exile her if they want to use Blow and Exile on that, but... And other Merfolk you control have Ward 1. I talked about this in a video. Ward is flawed, but it's better than nothing. It's what I always say about Ward. It's like, yeah, not the best mechanic, but still better than not having anything, right? Anthems. So, first of all, we got the Master of Pearl Trident. Other Merfolk creatures get +1/+1 and have Island Walk. Island, I think, is the most common land type in Commander because so many decks want to have access to blue and counter spells, right? Again, it doesn't have to be a basic island. It can be a triome with island as one of its land types, right? It just has to have the land type island. It does not have to be a basic island. An island walk just means they can't be blocked. So basically, if an opponent has an island, or you make an opponent have an island, we're going to get to that, all of your creatures cannot be blocked. Or all of your Merfolk cannot be blocked, I should say. Yeah, so Marrow Regery, other Merfolk get +1/+1, and if you cast a Merfolk spell, tap or untap target permanent. The untap thing is quite good. Merfolk Sovereign. So when, again, +1/+1 for other Merfolk, and tap her to make target Merfolk unblockable. You're buffing these guys up. Like, you can do it multiple times every turn, potentially, and she's just going to make them unblockable. Oi, oi. I mean, your commander can do that anyway, but yeah. Mist Dancer, +1/+0, and flying for all your Merfolk. You can make all your Merfolk flying, just give them all evasion. So it's maybe not quite as good as Island Walk, but it's more like you don't have to rely on your opponents having an island, basically, for that to work. Merkfiend Liege, again, we talked about this already, but +1/+1 or +2/+2 for most creatures in this deck, right? And it doesn't specify Merfolk, it specifies the color, so it's a bit more flexible in that sense. Merfolk tokens. My computer isn't working right. Fun. So you may look... whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token. So every time you cast, right? It is cast, unfortunately. You can make a Merfolk token, and whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token with hexproof. Again, so if you cast a Merfolk spell, pay 1 extra, you're going to make 2 tokens on top of that, and you can tap those to make 1 if you have the, what is it called? I already spaced on the name. Anyway, the other enchantment that makes them, you can tap them and yeah, make another one, and then just keep doing that. Making tokens is not hard. Reflections of Letjara. Okay, as it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, copy that spell. So this is where automatically you're going to be casting a Merfolk spell, pay 1 extra to make a token, Deeper Waters makes a token, and this will make a copy of the original. Not just a token, a copy of the original. Oh boy, oh boy. Especially if your original has like an anthem effect or something, that gets real out of hand. And yeah, here, that's the one I couldn't remember, Deeproot Pilgrimage. Right, and if you tap those, or sorry, right, cast a Merfolk spell, you're going to end up making 4, as long as you pay the 1 extra. You make that one and the other 2, and then yeah, you can tap those and make another 1. So potentially for casting 1 Merfolk, you can have 5 Merfolk. That's where the like tap 5 Merfolk, put +1/+1 counters on all Merfolk, that becomes pretty reasonable when you can make 5 Merfolk off of 1 casting. Yeah. WinCon. Okay, WinCon number 1, very simple, just commander damage, right? Blackblade Reforged. You can get land down pretty fast here, especially if you use something, I think it's Harvest Season, right? I feel like I'm spacing on the name of everything when I start recording. And Fire Shrieker, Double Strike. Those two, your commander has 2 starting, so he only needs really like 9 more. So if you have even 9 lands, which I think is quite doable in this deck, you can just one-shot people, right? And even if not, you can get +1/+1 counters as well. So I don't think you're going to be relying entirely on Blackblade to increase his power. But yeah, anyway. WinCon 2. So Azuri Claw Progress. So whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield, you're going to get an experience counter when he's out. And then he puts counters on any creature you want at the beginning of the combat equal to the number of experience counters you have. So yeah. Vorel of Hull Clade. Okay, so for a green-blue, tap double the number of counters on each, on target artifact, creature, or land. Okay, remember, you cannot target the experience counters, unfortunately, because you have the experience counters. You can't target players with this, but once you put all of the +1/+1 counters on a creature, you can use Vorel to double the number of +1/+1 counters on the creature. That's a very easy get into WinCon territory with your commander. You just really, especially we have untap effects in this as well. So Vorel is probably going to be able to untap and then just tap him again and put a pile more +1/+1 counters on your commander ideally. And then Kumena is going to have that 21 damage, I think, pretty quick. Even how many do you need to do that? I guess if you get even 6 +1/+1 counters, you double it once, it becomes 12. Double it again, 24. And yeah, he's already got 2, so that's 26. That's well above the 21 we need already. Yeah. Anyway, WinCon number 3. So this is using that Island Walk thing I mentioned before. Giving all your Merfolk Island Walk. That does include your commander, of course. And yeah, when Tide Shaper enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, again, it has a 1 kicker. So this costs 2 for this trick. And Master of the Pearl Trident is also only 2 mana. 4 mana win combo. Oh boy. Anyway, if it was kicked, target land becomes an island for as long as Tide Shaper remains on the battlefield. So you're just going to be like, that right there is an island now, and all of your Island Walk, all of your Merfolk are going to have Island Walk and can just attack the person without being blocked. You've made, by making their land into an island, you've made all of your creatures unblockable, or all of your Merfolk unblockable. Oh boy. Okay, WinCon 4, 5, and so on. So again, these are, I think, maybe better called finishers than WinCons, but yeah. Champion of Landholt. Creatures with power less than Champion of Landholt's power can't block creatures you control. Again, you're basically making it so your creatures cannot be blocked, and she gets the +1/+1 counters to do that. Once again, Azuri throwing +1/+1 counters, and lots of other things that can buff up your +1/+1 counters on creatures. You're going to be able to get this done pretty quick, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on her. Whenever another creature enters, this is not a cast, right? This does not say you have to cast a creature. All of your tokens you're making, that counts too. If you've got that play one or cast 1 Merfolk, you can make like 4 tokens, she gets +5/+5. So anything that's less than a 6/6 already cannot block your creatures. Just like that. Like, oh my gosh. Anyway, Mist Dancer, again, that giving all of your Merfolk flying. And then finally, Tempest Caller. So when it enters the battlefield, tap all creatures target opponent controls. I think this is almost more useful. Tapping down someone else's board so that everyone can attack them more easily. It's really kind of being like, you should probably attack this person instead of me. Especially if you're not like kind of, you know, the big bad at the table, or the arch nemesis, or whatever you want to call it. You're going to be able to kind of curry some favor with this, even, I think. Part 3, combos and tactics. So getting the most value, right? How to get the most value out of the deck. Tutors. Okay, Forerunner of the Heralds, we talked about. Analyze the Pollen. Again, this only gets a land unless you collect Evidence 8, which means exile 8 mana value from your graveyard. Once it gets to like mid to late game, I think this is very doable. And if you collect Evidence 8, you can tutor any creature you want, right? Instead of just a basic land. Finally, Neoform. So as an additional cost of this spell, you sacrifice a creature, and whatever that creature's CMC, you go find something that's 1 more expensive. And you can put that onto the battlefield. You don't have to cast it, you put it directly into the battlefield, and it gets a +1/+1 counter automatically. You can kind of set up a lot of things with this. I think most of the creatures are in like a 2, 3, 4 casting range. So yeah, you can really get almost whatever you need at that time. At the time, I think should not be hard to do. Okay, untap. Untapping is so good in this deck because of your commander. So yeah. Vitalize. Thanks to Adam for recommending this card. I actually hadn't seen this before, so I had a different card that basically did the same thing but was way more expensive, both in money and mana cost. So yeah, this was quite a find. Untap all creatures you control. Instant speed. 1 green. Untap all creatures. It's like kind of the best instant you could have in this deck. Anyway. Regery, I always say that wrong. Once again, the Anthem effect, and whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, tap or untap target creature. That comes in very big. Your Merfolk can have flash, and you can make a whole bunch of tokens from your Merfolk being cast, right? So cast a Merfolk, untap another Merfolk, make a whole bunch of token Merfolk as well. Your commander is just going to keep like drawing you cards or do whatever you want. And Dramatic Reversal for 1 and a blue, untap all non-land permanents you control. This is amazing because it is non-land permanents, right? Including mana rocks and things like that. We don't have a lot of mana rocks in here, but you know, it'll be good. Curse of Bounty. I love the curse cards in general, and whenever enchanted player is attacked, untap all non-land permanents you control. Each opponent attacking that player untaps all non-land permanents they control. Okay, so this is going to untap for you multiple times. So basically, if that player is getting attacked, you just tap down stuff. Hopefully you're not going to get attacked, I guess. Anything you don't need to block, you can tap down and like draw cards or whatever you want to do. And then immediately the attack trigger happens and you just untap everything. They get to untap everything too, but it's more worth it for you because you can do it on your turn and their turn. Just value train. Again, Merkfiend Liege we already talked about. This is like untapping every turn. Yeah, 4 times a round you're untapping. Crazy. More tap effects. Okay, Surge Spanner. So whenever it becomes tapped, you can pay 1 and a blue, and basically bounce something back to the owner's hand. Again, target permanent. This can be used kind of as pseudo removal. So this is actually quite good. It is 1 and a blue. I think you can find cards that are cheaper, but it is a card, not a repeatable ability. So I still think this is better. Because you can just keep doing this and doing it to, yeah, target permanent. It doesn't even say non-land permanent. I didn't realize that before. Oh my. So you could just keep bouncing someone's like Triome back to their hand or something. And then it comes in tapped. So you can kind of just halt their mana. Oh boy. and then untap him, and then tap him, and do it again. Oh, that's mean. Oh boy. Fallow Sage. Whenever Fallow Sage becomes tapped, draw a card. Again, you're probably tapping to draw cards. So tap him, draw a card, and then tap 2 more, and then draw a card. It turns it into like card draw on almost every tap. Oh boy. Lull Mage Mentor. This is the most expensive card in this deck, and I would not take it out. Even I kept having like reduce the price. It's like, nope, that's staying in no matter what. Whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may put a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token onto the battlefield. Okay, that's not bad. More tokens, sure. The next tap 7 Merfolk you control, counter target spell. You're kind of repeating this tap down thing over and over and over, and can probably do it like every turn. You can start just countering spells whenever you want now too. And if you counter the spell, you also make a Merfolk. It's getting ridiculous. Anyway, Merfolk Sovereign again. Tap it. You can tap her to make a creature unblockable. You do have to actually tap her. It's not just an effect of tap. So I kind of wanted to point that out. Like, I don't want someone to get confused and think anytime she taps, it just automatically makes a Merfolk unblockable. I almost said untappable, but anyway. Yeah. So anyway. And Vorel of Hallclade. Again, we talked about him already. Being able to untap him and then tap him again, that allows you to just keep stacking up your counters. You can get, you know, your +1/+1s, but also your shield counters, right? If you get a shield counter, proliferate, and then do this, and then you've got 4. And then you can just keep kind of stacking them up from there. Untap them, do it again, it becomes 8. So your creature is going to be indestructible 8 times. That's probably all they need for a game, I think. Anyway. They're back. So recursion, basically. Deeproot Historian. Again, we talked about this as well. Merfolk have retrace. As long as you've got card draw, you're probably going to have extra lands. Discard the land, and then, yeah. Replay something from your graveyard. Very good. Verdant Confluence. This is a card I only came across recently, and it's like, I think it's going to be one of my pet cards now. So you can, for 6 mana, it is pricey, but yeah, choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Okay, 6 mana, 3 effects. 2 mana per effect. That's actually quite good. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creatures. So you could put just like 6 +1/+1 counters on a creature, and if Vorel's out, pay the 2, tap them, and make it 12. Then if your commander has double strike, there you go. You can just one-shot people. Game over. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Permanent, right? Permanent, not creature, permanent. So you probably want to use this on creatures, but it's also like a really nice card to have just because you don't know what's going to happen type of thing. And search your library for a basic land card, put it in the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Even if you're just using this for ramp, 6 mana to get 3 lands down is really not bad either, but yeah. Curse Catcher. Okay, this is one I really like in this deck, because remember, it says sacrifice Curse Catcher, counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays 1. So if he's tapped, you can still sacrifice him. He does not need to tap to use his ability. You can sacrifice him even if he is tapped, so you can kind of just have it on the back burner. What I think a lot of people don't like that kind of tax counter spell. It is somewhat more limited, but yeah. It's actually, what I would use this mostly for is shutting down counter spells, right? If someone's trying to use a counter spell against you, they probably don't have enough mana open to, or a whole bunch of extra mana open, right? If they have a counter spell, they've got like the mana for that spell open. So sacrifice him, say, okay, I'm countering your counter spell, unless you pay 1, and they probably can't pay the 1. And that's where this really becomes like kind of like a safety net, right? No one's going to want to use counterspell on your stuff if you're just going to like be able to shut them down immediately. So this is all about the buffing. This is very important in this deck, I think. Okay, so Master Chef. Again, commander creatures you own have. This creature enters the battlefield with additional +1/+1 counter on it. The +1/+1 counter may not sound like a lot, but it's very important because doing the commander damage is one of our main win cons. And also, other creatures you control enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on them. So just everything is going to get +1/+1 counters. Your win con for your commander damage, or your win con just for like regular combat if you give them flying or island to walk, right? If you're doing the like, if you end up doing the more token strategy aspect, this is just like huge, right? Yeah, Anyway, Deep Root Elite. Whenever another Merfolk enters the battlefield. Again, Merfolk enters the battlefield, not Merfolk is cast, right? All those tokens are going to, I should actually read the rest of it, put a +1/+1 counter on target Merfolk you control. So anytime you cast or anytime a Merfolk enters the battlefield under your control, you're just putting +1/+1 on any Merfolk you want, not the one that entered the battlefield. A lot of effects are like the thing that entered the battlefield gets the +1/+1 counter. I think that's what's really sneaky good about this, is that it's anything you want. Call it your commander, right? So again, you have all these tokens entering the battlefield, and you just keep piling the +1/+1s on your commander. And very soon, I think you get to commander damage territory, especially if you have the double strike out. Finally, or not, okay, Master Biomancer. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with additional +1/+1 counters on equal to Master Biomancer's power. You're probably going to be able to put an extra +1/+1 on him as well. So he's going to be putting like 3 +1/+1 counters on your creatures when they enter the battlefield. 1/1 tokens, not very scary, but that's going to be like a 4/4. Even if he doesn't have a +1/+1 for some reason, 3/3, right? Just, oof. Again, Champion of Lambholt really benefits from this. When she enters the battlefield, again, if Master Biomancer has a +1/+1 counter on him, she's a 4/4 immediately. So all of your opponent's creatures that are power 4 or less cannot block. Oh, no, only less. Oh, yeah. So 3 or less cannot block, and that's a lot of creatures, I think. Zanaga, Utopian Speaker, our second Zanaga. The thing we really care about, first of all, if you control another creature with a +1/+1 counter, you get to draw a card, which is nice, but we don't really care about that. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample. Almost another win con there, right? If you're doing this like token thing and you're doing the +1/+1 counters and you're just buffing them up a bunch, giving everything trample is just like a monster of a move. Okay, so this has been Kumena, Tyrant of Orazca. I can't say that, but anyway, something's fishy. I can't say that, and I can say, take it easy.